Welcome to Board Geeks Board Games, your go-to podcast for all things tabletop and board games. I'm Brennan, joined by my fellow geek Logan.
Hello. Today, Ryan is unable to join us, but that's not going to stop us. So today, we're zeroing in on the exciting world of dice-only or dice-centric games. So whether you love the suspense of a dice roll or the pure luck involved in the RNG, this episode is for you. But before we get the conversation rolling on dice... let's get into the game of the week, which is going to be a title you've heard us talk about a lot here.
That's right. The game of the week is King of Tokyo. What a better episode for this one, honestly. Like, I talk about it a lot.
Yeah.
So the game, the idea is you're giant monsters fighting over Tokyo.
Mm-hmm. The kings, yeah.
The kings. And... it's played through, it has a set of specialty dice, and it's using Yahtzee rules. You know, you roll 3 times, and then at the end of the third roll, you resolve your dice. And that could be you're dealing damage to other monsters, you're collecting energy to buy power-up cards. I gotta remember, you could be healing yourself up, or you could just be getting victory points, because, you know, the point of the game is to the first person to 20 victory points wins the game.
Or the last man standing.
Or the last man standing. That's why the claws matter. You could just could go aggro route.
Everyone.
That's kind of the fun way. Like when you're in a big pod, you're like, I'm just going to take everybody out.
Survival of the fittest.
It has quite a few expansions at the moment.
I know we've talked about that a lot.
Because right now you have the 4 like extra monster expansions,
and a few of them add extra dice as well.
Yes, the
Cthulhu, I believe.
Cthulhu adds a new mechanic. The Anubis adds a new die. It's called like
Anubis
and then the Cybertooth adds the Berserk die, which is just extra claws.
Yes, yeah.
But you know, like I said, it's quite a few like expansions. There's the evolutions, costumes, the 4 extra monsters, and then the spin-off games have got their monsters.
And they're all kind of cross-play, cross-compatible.
Yes, and they're all cross-play. Yep.
And I know I just recently got the King of Monster Island,
right,
which is another dice-centric game, and it comes, the board is like its own dice tower.
Yeah, it's really, the volcano in the center is really fun. What's great is because the King of line, all the monsters are
They're the same.
They're the same. You can use your monsters from King of Tokyo or King of New York in King of Monster Island because there's nothing special about them.
It's just reskinning it.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know there's a Halloween one too.
Yes, that's the costume.
It brings in costumes that has a pumpkin head.
It gives you Pumpkin Jack and Boogie Woogie.
Yeah, and Oogie Boogie knockoff.
Yeah.
They didn't get the copyright.
Yeah, my brother just calls him the trash bag. It's his favorite.
Yeah, all right, so now we can roll on over to the main topic of today's episode and open up the floor for all games dice. Do you like my dice puns I've been doing, though?
You gotta get them.
Yeah. Right. First, I do want to touch on a game that I think we all know. That is dice only, optional, pen and paper. And it's going to be Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, I would not have thought to put it in the dice game, but yeah.
But it is. Originally, it was just the fantasy mind theater.
Yep.
And you roll the dice, so you're not playing the main character all the time. You kind of have that RNG involved. But yeah, it essentially is just a dice game. That all you need. You don't have to buy any books. I mean, it helps to know the rules. But really, all you need is the dice. And like, hey, evens is fail, like odds is pass, and then that 50-50 chance.
And it's like, there you go. It's like, and then you're like, oh, modifiers to your thing. It's like, oh, yeah, you're a rogue. You're better at this thing, right?
Yes.
You broke it.
Apparently.
But so I was going to start with like the basics, like, you know, you don't have to go crazy. You can just go Yahtzee, Farkle are 2. I didn't play Yahtzee a lot when I was younger.
I was a Yahtzee kid.
We were more of a Farkle family. My mom
that's always a fun divide to see.
Yeah, like, and what's funny is like my mom and her family were big Yahtzee people, but it just got
converted.
Yeah, but it just did not catch on with the rest of the family.
Yeah. For anyone who somehow doesn't know those games.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain them?
So you'll have to do Yahtzee because it's been a hot minute, but Farkle. So you have a set of dice. I want to say it's 8 dice, 6 dice.
I think it's 6 is the standard for
6.
Pretty much most dice.
I didn't know if it had
sets
extra
of 6.
Yeah, I didn't know if it had extra and then you scored off of 6, or if it had. But anyways, so you're making 3 rolls, and the idea is you are trying to score points off of what you rolled, right? So it's like if you I think you can, out of every roll, score something, or you can wait and trying to score off the final roll.
Well, so I think for Farkle is you can keep rolling if you meet a certain criteria.
Yes, if you meet a certain point criteria.
Like you're trying to roll all the same number.
Yeah, that's it. Because if you meet a certain point criteria, you get to keep rolling, and then you can just get a lot of points. I was like, there's a reason it's different than Yahtzee, but I could not.
Farkle, you can theoretically win on round 1 if you get good luck and just keep rolling.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yahtzee is the opposite. You are limited to 3 rolls, and your goal is to fit in the criteria.
Yes.
It's like you want to get points for the amount of 1s on the board, 2s, 3, 4, 5, 6, multiples, like 3 of a kind, 4 of a kind. Yahtzee, all the same
They always
number.
sell the little like score pads I've seen. And
you don't need a score pad. You can also just write it down, look it up.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you can get a score pad. Also, there's a dice game, Quicks. I haven't played, but that's another similar one to Yahtzee that has a score pad.
Gotcha.
If you just buy the score pads or look them up,
right,
you can
you
play
should
it. And it just gives you the guide on what you're looking for to lock in points.
Gotcha.
So there's Liar's Dice.
Oh, there's Liar's
made
Dice.
Popular
yes,
by
Pirates. Can't forget Liar's Dice.
Pirates of the Caribbean, and it's just a bluffing game. You roll, and you're telling people how many face up of one number there is on the table. So like everyone rolls 5 dice, and they keep their 5 secret.
Right.
Like I'm betting you that there are 6 5s on the table.
So I was taught this game while drunk. I had a few drinks. Like, we should play Liar's Dice. I was like, whatever, I'm in. And trying to learn the game while inebriated. I'm like,
trying to count and ration well.
Yeah. I think it's like, I'm already not like a great bluffer. So I'm like, sure.
Yeah, it's kind of like everyone goes up in how much of one like face value they think is there, and they bluff. Because like if I have 5 5s up, there's obviously going to be more than 5 5s up. Yeah, that's what I'm betting. But if I have 1 5 up, I can bluff and say there's more than that. Right, and you just keep going around. It's a similar game, Bamboozled. Oh, okay. Except it's a shake and pass. So you roll like some dice in a cup, right, and you tell everyone what your value is, and the next person has to roll higher than your value. Oh, I see. So they can call your bluff, thinking you did not roll a high number or something, and then you pass it and they roll. And there's like some action cards you can play optionally. Right. Okay. Other versions, but it's a similar thing. It's a bluffing on what numbers are there. Got you. Okay. Okay. Another great dice only game that needs only 1 die. There are different versions, but Pig. Okay, I've not heard of Pig. So Pig is a game where you roll the dice, and it's like first to whatever, like 100 points. So you roll a die. All right, you got a 6, that's 6 points. You can choose to keep rolling or bank it. I'm going to roll again. I got a 4, that's 10 points. Roll or bank. Keep going. As much as you want until you bank it. Those are the points you get. Okay. But the risk is if you roll a 1... that's a pig, and you don't get any of those
you
points.
Lose. So it's a lot like in like the zombie dice game. If you could push, but you really could mess yourself up.
And it's the drive of it's a 1 in 6 chance.
Yeah, you're like
I could do more.
As a Warhammer player, I've had too much plasma to take that bet. I'm like,
Yeah, it's 1 in 6, so you want to keep rolling until you roll that pig.
The joke in the Warhammer community is anytime you roll a 1 and you spend a CP to reroll it, it will always be a 1 again.
Yes. Although, now that I'm thinking about it, I think the pig should be on a 2 because that makes a pig snout.
Oh, yeah. There you go, because it's got the little 2.
Yeah, I see why 1 is the lowest, but now I'm thinking it should be the 2 for the pig
and it still
snout.
Works because it's still a 1 in 6 chance. It doesn't mess with any.
Yeah, it's still the same odds and everything. It's just, slightly different. But yeah, there's not too many like games you can just play with a set of dice, right? At least like straight up. A lot of them are just gonna be score pad based or bluffing games like that, which is fun. But we can get into some specialty dice games now, right? I've
got a few. I know. So Ryan not being able to be here, he had one he wanted to mention.
Yeah, he sent a list. He's contributing.
Yes. So Dice Throne. Okay. So this is a 1v1 dueling dice game. Or it can be there's an expansion, I guess, that lets you play as like an adventure as a group. And the idea is you have characters who have special abilities that roll. So you roll your dice like Yahtzee, 1, 2, 3, and then depending on like what you do, you have special abilities your character can do.
Like based off what you rolled?
Okay. Yeah, for what you rolled. Like one of the ones he showed me was like I think it was the rogue. they had like if they had 4 purple dice, they could just use 4 of any purple dice and they get the ability. So they had like a generic effect, but then they had one that's like, well, say you rolled these things, you had a more
and
you
then
had a
those
better
abilities do the game interaction.
Yep, and those abilities do the game interaction. And like what he said is the starter, like any 2 is like $20 for, and then you could buy a season's worth is how they do it. Like so every year, I guess is a season. That's a $200 set, but it's better than buying the individual characters.
Okay, and so. Obviously, I don't think you've really played, but when you saw, how many colors are there? Is it just like 6 colors, 1 for each dice side, or
I can get you. I was because I was doing some quick like. I found out about this. I'm like, okay, I got to do my quick. I know there's like purple dice, there are green dice because like here's this is a Trent who has like kind of orange dice. So I assume every character has their own set.
Okay.
Yeah. But
it's not clear if it's
It's, so what I'm thinking is it sounds like it's like each character has their own set.
The reason I ask is because there are games like Pass the Panda, which I've not played in a long while, so I may be mistaken.
Right.
But I believe it's like a rolling matching game where you're trying to match different symbols and you collect pandas and you pass the dice, stuff like that.
Right.
But there are 6 sides. There's 6 different images. So essentially you could play it with normal dice. As long as you know the rules, you're just taking out the thematic element.
Yeah, we had it's not a dice-centric game. It's a tabletop game, but it was called Gaslands, and you take Hot Wheels and you can modify them to be like it's Mad Max racing.
Okay.
And it had its own proprietary dice, but they're like, well, if you don't have it, here's how you match up our dice with just regular dice, so you can still play. So that's cool. So it's like you can have the fancy dice, but if you just know what the thing is, you're still good. Yeah,
because I feel like there's a lot of dice games out there that are just thematic. They're essentially these basic dice games,
right?
But they're thematic. A game I don't think that would work with is Zombie Dice.
Zombie Dice has to have its because I know they are because for one it's like different ratios of dice.
The reds which have more gunshots, green which have more brains, and the yellow which is even. So
so it's very much you have to have the dice for the game. I don't know if that works for Bang as well.
Ooh,
it's been a while since I played Bang.
Bang might have balanced dice.
They might be
how many dice you roll.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because it's been a minute. It's been a minute since I played.
Ryan
Bang.
was the one who loved Bang.
I liked Bang. We played it. But it's been so long since we played it. So, but both of those are like they have their own dice. Yeah, as we said. So Bang might, but Zombie Dice, as you said, definitely needs its own. You have to have the dice that you can game with it.
Left, center, right.
Okay.
LCR. I don't know if you've played that.
I've not played this one.
So it's like You could do it with just normal dice.
Right.
Having like 1 and 2 be this, 3 and 4 be this, 5 and 6 be this. Because there's only 3 options. You go to the left, you go to the center, or you go to the right. So how that game works is you have like points in front of you. You have like 5 pennies or tokens or points. And then you roll the 3 dice. And you either... I think maybe there's 4 options of keep your own and nothing happens. But like left, you pass a token to the left. Right, you pass a token to the right. Center, you throw it in the center. And then there is it's a left to center or right. And I think 3 stays.
Oh, okay.
So you keep them. So it'd be like 1, 3, and 6 would be. 1, 3, and 5 would be the different passes. Even you just keep whatever. You can play with just dice, or you can get the specialty dice,
which
are labeled left, LCR.
Right.
Circle.
They tell you where you're supposed to do with them,
and then it's just whoever has pieces left at the end wins, and you just keep going around like I roll, pass, and you pass the dice. You roll, you pass your chips out.
This reminds me of a drinking game that we played with dice. I'm not an alcoholic, I swear. It was my friend's 21st, and he's like, but so it was called King's Cup. King's Cup. One of them was with cards, and one was with dice.
King's Cup is with cards when I've played it.
Okay, and so there's another. It's like I think it's like Lucky 7. It's all I know is we'd roll
That sounds right, because sounds like dice.
Yeah, so what we'd do is you'd roll a die, and then you could say, well, this person drinks or I drink. And I just remember being, because that was the pregame, being sloshed me like, hey, everybody drink on every time I could. But
okay, yeah. So Gelatinous.
Okay.
A Steve Franks game where you're a wandering slime, and you're just collecting. It's the 12 millimeter D6s. There's just a whole bunch of those.
Oh. Okay, that sounds fun. So you're just a slot, like a gelatinous
Yeah.
cube. Okay, I like this already.
Latness is the same way as left, center, right. You have your
Okay.
little slime in front of you and you roll dice, and like ones are passed to the left, sixes are passed to the right.
Got you.
Threes you keep to yourself, and you're trying to build up a little slime guy.
Okay, you're just trying to accumulate.
Yeah, you want to make like a 2x2 or a 3x3 stack of dice.
Okay.
And you can just use normal dice or normal 12 millimeter dice, which I'm sure a lot of gamers have.
Right.
But the game itself comes with these cute little like translucent green looking slime looking dice, which is real
that's
nice. But
fun.
it's the same
Okay.
concept as left, center, right, where you're passing the pieces, and whoever has pieces at the end wins.
Which kind of goes for a lot of these dice games. They're generally the same, like a similar ideas, just reskinned
Or,
or
like, slightly different
or
rule
slightly
set. Yeah.
different. Yeah.
Which is fine. I mean, there is one dice variant. So then there are the games you can play with just dice.
Yeah.
Games that need like specialty dice or very dice heavy. And then there are games that just use dice. So there's dice chess. I don't know if you've ever played.
I've not heard of dice chess. What's this like?
So how many different chess pieces are there? The answer is 6.
Yeah, I was like, hold on, I have to do the math. Like, I have to think because
Yeah,
there's
there's
I
6.
almost answered 16. I'm like, that's how many pieces each side has.
Yeah.
That's incorrect.
So essentially you get 3 dice and you roll it to determine what pieces you can move. So 1s is you can move pawns, 2s is going to be like rooks, 3 knight, bishop,
Okay,
queen, king.
right.
There is no check or checkmate. You just have to have a piece take the king.
Right.
Just because with rolling dice, I mean, you can
It's so
force
much
a
harder.
checkmate if they because
Right.
RNG. So the goal is you have to get a piece to land on their king.
Right. So it's goes from checkmating the king to capture the king.
Yes.
Which means when you can move your king, if he's in a bad spot, you got to think very carefully.
Yeah, so you want to have pieces available to protect your king,
Right.
And also pieces available to stop. And
Like-
I think it's if you roll like 3 1s, you can move the same pawn 3 times.
Okay.
I think is how the doubles work.
Got
and
you.
At least how when I've done it, and all you need is a chessboard and 3 dice, and it just adds that.
Yeah, See, and that's the thing is like it goes kind of back to the homebrew episode of just you change something slightly about how the game is.
The homebrew episode hasn't happened yet. It
Has
goes
that-
forward.
Has that one? Time is editing means time doesn't matter.
Yes. It'll shout out to a future miniseries.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're good. Yeah, dice games. I play a lot of. There's Dice Hospital.
Okay.
You're rolling dice to get numbers, and those are patience. You have to get into. You have to buy the game because it's colored dice, which are important.
Okay.
On top of numbers, you're trying to get all of the colored different patients to get to 7, because 7 means you're out of the hospital.
Okay.
So you're trying to raise their numbers, add them up, multiply your
Right,
special
get them
abilities.
out of the-
You get different like hospital workers. I've only ever played it online, which makes it leagues easier to understand.
Right.
Because playing that game in person is very confusing too.
It's the reason when I do play Yu-Gi-Oh, which is not often, I play on digital sources because I'm not trying to actually understand anything about what's going on.
Yeah. What other like dice heavy games are there?
So of course, RPGs, as you mentioned,
Yeah.
and you have your different flavors. You could, because your dice don't just have to be your traditional D6. You could be, what are they called? Percentile systems. So you're just rolling
the
your
D10s
the
or-
D10s. Then
You
have
could do like a D12, D20.
Yep.
You could play pig with a D20.
yeah. Oh yeah, you could. That works out.
You maybe do a 1 or a 20 as pig or something.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
That. But
Because and the thing is like scale. So you have your scaling dice,
Yeah.
of course. Oh, there was a. It's hard to like say just a dice game because so many games utilize dice but aren't themselves dice games.
yeah, but I mean, there's a lot of games where if you took the dice out, the game would not really be playable anymore.
Right. And so it's like because I'm like when I was first looking at this, I'm like, oh, Monopoly, and I'm like, well, no, kind of weird.
Yeah.
Because like the dice do, they're
Contribute how you go around the border.
But I'm like, but it's more about like you buying properties, or like Ryan and I were talking. One of the games where like we wanted to do, he's like, oh, never mind, because it's more of a social deception game than an actual like dice game, right? It's the dice help facilitate part of the actions.
Are you talking about Hollywood?
Hollywood was no, it wasn't Hollywood. I think it was. It was Cash and Guns. I think is what. I think that was actually a card game, but same different,
Yeah.
right? It's like we were talking. It's like it really is more of a social
Same
deception
like so
game.
Wingspan has dice.
Right.
That's the RNG to get your resources.
Right. Whereas I feel it's more the cards that matter in Wingspan.
Yeah. There's a dice version of Settlers of Catan.
There is? I did not know that. That's
So it's like there's a little board map thing that has like set resources.
Okay.
And you roll the dice, figure out what resources you're getting.
okay.
If that makes any sense. So it's like a very, very simplified version of
Right.
of Catan.
Okay. So and that's the thing is like they'll find it's like, well, we can sell this in any way we can. Let's make it a dice version.
The travel version.
Like another one, like Risk, is one of those, like, you can't really play it without the dice because that's very important to how the game is played. You still need, like, your numbers and stuff, but...
Mm-hmm. I believe there's a dice version of Uno.
I know the one you're talking about.
Yes.
Oh, there's so... I finally just gave up. It's like Backgammon is a dice game, if you think... I've not played Backgammon, but it's like, because that's why I'm like... Quicks, as you has mentioned.
Sagrada.
Yes, Sagrada.
It's not... I do think you still need the pieces because it's a stained glass window type, the building thing.
Right.
But it needs the dice.
It's a core... I can't think of a core piece of the game itself. Of course, King of Tokyo, Pass the Pigs... A Catan dice game, Cthulhu dice. I didn't know there was a Cthulhu dice game.
Interesting. There's quite a lot of variations of games like Yahtzee and Farkle and stuff. There's and Quicks.
King of Tokyo is just Yahtzee with giant monsters.
Yeah, because I mean, it is 6 different values that you're rolling and trying to match up. So a lot of these games are just the same concept.
Just kind of reskinned, rehashed.
Or you give it specialty dice and people think it's all fancy.
It's like, oh, it's holding. It's like, well, if you look at it, it's like, it's not quite.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are drinking games. Like one I just found is called Ship Captain and Crew.
Oh,
is a drinking game with 5 dice. The player can be played as few as 2 people, but is usually played in a group of 5 or more. The object of the game is to roll the ship, a 5, a captain, and a 4 crew with 3 dice, and get the highest score with the other 2, the ship's cargo. In other versions, a 4 is the mate, and the remaining dice are the crew.
Okay. So it's like a set Yahtzee bracket that you're trying to hit every time.
So you need a 6, you need a 5, and you need a 4, and then your other 2, your other dice can just be whatever.
Dice Wars.
That was one. I know there was...
I own that. It's like a pretty massive box. It's a strategy game, and I think it comes with a lot of like big dice, and those are kind of like your players.
Okay.
And you roll them to determine like your attacking or defending power with the number. And strength of like the armies.
Gotcha.
And it's kind of like Risk style of how to resolve conflicts.
I was looking at the picture right here on Amazon.
There is some strategy or skill, especially in like Risk assessment style like strategy. But really all it is for most dice games is RNG. It's the luck of what you're going to get.
Biggest thing in 40K is like trying to build your army or play your list as well as you can to mitigate RNG, right? So like, it's like, oh, I know I can stack rerolls or this and that. That's, so, and that's the thing of like, as you said, it's the RNG, and then just how you can circumvent it or understand is like, okay, well, I'm doing well enough, I can push my advantage here or whatnot. Quarriors. Sure.
It's like warriors with a QU at the start. Quarriors. It's not a deck building game, it's a dice building game. Everyone starts with an identical set of dice. That's their collection of like mystical creatures and spells. Okay. And on your turn, you draw and roll dice, aiming to summon creatures and cast spells to gain glory, which is like their victory point system.
Right.
And the dice determine what actions are available to you, such as attacking opponents, gaining more powerful dice for your collection. Whoever reaches the set of glory points wins. Right. But you roll to get different, and you try to get different dice that do different things.
I see.
So everyone's starting off with 4d6s. If you get a d4, it lets you do this. If you can get a d12, it lets you do something along those lines. You
can start, it's like, okay, well, this does this, that, I got you.
I don't remember if it's the different values of dice or different just like color symbols of dice.
Right.
Exactly, but it's that concept of you're building a set of dice so that you can pick from to roll to get better stuff.
It's that thing of so this is your like dice pool you get to use. Okay.
Yes, I believe. I played it a long time ago, so I may be mistaken, but that I recall
right, how you remember
how
it.
I remember it.
I know some of these I'm like, I played this once, like 4 years ago.
Yeah, no, dice are just like so common in games.
Yeah.
I don't really think about it. I mean, like, it's the most basic RNG movement principle
Yeah.
for like since the dawn of
Well, it's
time.
like Clue uses it as its movement
Yeah,
system.
Sorry uses it, I believe.
Oh yeah, it does. Trouble.
Yep.
I've been playing a lot of Trouble.
I love Trouble. Speaking of specialty dice, jumping back, Boggle is a game that uses specialty
word dice, right?
Yeah, letter dice. That's a whole nother category of
Like, see,
untouched games.
I've only ever played Scrabble. I've never played Boggle, so
Yeah, so Boggle is the one I played was like pretty fancy. It was for travel Boggle.
oh,
And I was like, it's its own like contained thing. You shake it and then you like twist it to lock the dice in.
got you.
And then you have to make letters. There's different ways you can play. Just make letters based on the dice available. Make letters based on dice touching.
Okay.
They pop it from Big Bang Theory. You can play Klingon Boggle.
I just know it's called. It probably has a better name than that.
I think it's Klingon.
Well, I know it has like the fancy in-universe name, and everybody's like, "That's
yeah.
Klingon." I'm like, I couldn't tell you what it's actually called.
Yeah. But it's like that.
Okay, Klingon Bobble or Boggle.
Yeah, that's they pop from Big Bang Theory.
I got you. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, Boggle, it's just you get letters and those determine what words
you're able to like.
you have at your disposal
Okay.
or what letters you have to make words.
Got you.
Those are like the table Scrabble tiles, if you will.
Right.
That's definitely a specialty dice game.
Yeah,
For sure. I think you just have to buy that game.
Yeah, there's
to
not
play
really a way you
Boggle.
can have your like your D6s, like well this one here means B because you're just no.
And then there's like categories, which is a pen and paper like thinking game.
Okay.
But it's based off of a dice roll. So it comes with, I don't know if it's a 26-sided dice. How many letters in the alphabet?
26. You're right.
Okay.
Oh, so
I started doubting myself.
Oh, okay. So it's like you roll a die, it gives you a letter.
I
and then
think
you
it's a 24-sided dice because it's missing like X
And probably, like,
Q or something.
maybe Y. No, I could X and Z probably. I bet you.
No, I think there's Z on there. I
Z's
think
on
it's
there?
just X and Q because because what it is, you have to find words that start with that letter in a certain category.
Oh, and X and Q, like it's like
Yeah, so it'll be like a list. It'll be a list of like your first one will be like name a boy's name, and the letter is C. You have to come up with a boy's name.
okay. So
The next one will be like a type of sandwich. You have to think of a sandwich that starts with C, like a Cuban sandwich.
oh, see out of it.
Yeah,
You're like
you just go through that list, and then afterwards you
sandwich.
share. And if anyone cheese sandwich would count. If anyone has the same word as you, you don't get points for that word.
oh,
So
I
you got to
see.
think of a word nobody else is thinking of, but they can take the risk. Like, is everyone gonna say cheese sandwich, or is everyone gonna think everyone's
I was
gonna
gonna
say
say
cheese?
Okay, so the
sandwich?
game is like it's like I know this.
Yeah.
But and because you want as many as possible, you want to put as much down. But if you say something that's been listed,
Yeah.
you lose out. And it's
And
like
while that's not really like a dice heavy game, that dice is pretty pivotal
go to the game
to
itself.
making it random which letter everyone has to choose from. So you
Right.
can't be thinking in your head, okay, I got like 12 things that start with an S. I want S as the letter.
Yeah,
You roll it and you pray for S, but
it's like, oh look, we got B. Have fun. Mm-hmm. One a lot of people play is the shut box game.
shut the box.
You know,
Yes.
so you roll and you have to put down the number.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that one. That's a great one.
Yeah, no, that's because the shut the box is just extra, and its core, it's just a dice game.
Yep.
You're trying to hit. I think you roll 2 dice, and you take whatever the total is, or whatever the 2 separate numbers.
You can
are.
you can make the comp.
Yeah,
you
so
can
a
either
3 and a 4 can be 3, 4, or 7.
Yep.
Double checking my
Yeah,
4, 5,
you're- yeah.
7. And you have to pick because if you roll I think there's different ways to play. If you roll the same one, you're out. And you can't get any more numbers
Yeah.
down, or you have to flip that number back up.
Yeah, I've seen the one where you have to like flip the number back up. And a big thing about this too is all of these have, of course, variations on themselves. Like Yahtzee has Yahtzee Frenzy, apparently.
And reskins. There's like D&D
Yep.
Yahtzee. There's Ramen Yahtzee. Your shaker's a
Really?
little ramen cup.
Oh, that's fun.
From strategy and luck to the simple joy of rolling, dice games truly have something for everyone.
Right.
Whether it's just, pick up a set of 7 dice from the dollar store and roll them, or you're buying a game that's heavily reliant on dice or,
Yeah.
specialty dice. But thank you everyone for listening to this week's episode of Board Geeks Board Games Podcast.
Be sure to tune in next week to hear these geeks talk about card-only games.